This is District 47 Corporate Symposium featuring distinguished Toastmaster Pat Johnson, past international president and past region advisor. We are excited to welcome you to our event. We will be recording the event. Therefore, you will receive a follow-up email with the recording. We also appreciate those that made some time to join us here live, and thank you for joining us. If you have time, we want to hear from you in the chat. Just type in where you're from, where you're joining us from, or what company you represent. If you're already part of a Toastmasters club, we'd love to hear what club you are in. And we are excited. We're going to have about 30 minutes to hear from distinguished Toastmaster Pat Johnson. Then we're going to hear a little testimonial from one of our corporate members. We'll finally open it up to some Q&A to hear from you. Those questions may be left unanswered or that you just have more curiosity about. And finally, we'll close you out, just remind you how to reach us and how to connect with us further in making sure that you get all your questions answered. It is now my absolute pleasure to introduce our keynote for today. Our keynote, Pat Johnson joined Toastmasters International in 1983 in rural northern Manitoba, Canada. During her 4 decades of continuous learning and membership in Toastmasters, she has spoken in a long list of countries around the world as a keynote speaker and educator. And we're excited to have her here at District 47 today. She served as District 21 Distinguished District Governor in 2001 to 2002. She was International Director from 2004 to 2006 in Region 1. International President of Toastmasters International from 2010 to 2011. Of course, she's been instrumental in our Pathways program and the development and design of the curriculum. She was District Host Chair for International Convention in Vancouver, BC, Canada in 2017. She is also the recipient of Toastmasters President's Citation Award, which is awarded for outstanding leadership and communication on a global level. Of course, her expertise in writing and publishing a book entitled Building and Sustaining Vibrant and Sustainable Toastmasters Programs in Corporations. She published that in 2018, and it was launched at the International Convention in Chicago, Illinois, USA, that same year. She then served as Region 10 Advisor for Europe and UK in 2021, Region 2 Advisor for Northern California, North America in 2021-2022, and she served as co-chair and chair of the International Disciplinary Committee 2023 and 2024. Pat Johnson lives in Concarroll Mills, Nova Scotia, Canada, and is currently busy building a new Toastmasters club in that community. Relevant to this presentation is that her professional career was in corporate learning and development departments, where she and her team designed and delivered training for corporate employees. Please, let's give a resounding applause, emojis, show our love to distinguished Toastmaster Pat Johnson.
Thank you so much, Dr. Susan, and all of District 47, as well as our guests who may not be Toastmaster members yet, but curious about the Toastmasters program. I'm going to touch on a number of areas, given the very large topic that this is for me. I'm going to first talk about the all-important partnership between Toastmasters International and any employer that is wishing to bring the Toastmasters program into their environment. I'm going to talk about the structure and support between the two partnerships, as well as a bit of a look at that from the perspective of being a member in the club. I'm going to also touch on the transferable skills for you as a member of this Toastmasters program, and finally end up with the benefits for the employers. And although those are very large topics, I'm going to touch briefly on each one of them to help you start learning about where my mind comes from. As Dr. Susan said, my background is in adult education. That's where I made my living. That's where I worked. I was responsible for maintaining a learning environment within a corporate environment. I also worked in government, and we had the same structure that we used within government agencies and government departments in Canada. So if you're in either of those, corporate or government, I'm certainly comfortable with all those environments. So let's start by looking at the partnership between Toastmasters and the employer, because this is really what it is. When I sat in that office as the director of learning and development, my mandate was to provide all the skills that our employers needed, or our employer needed, for our employees, for them to do their job to the best of their ability. Now, some organizations don't necessarily recognize communication as one of their top necessary skills until they stop to think about it. And what I realized as I sat in that office, that I spent a lot of time looking at 4 programs, and a lot of those skills were deliverable through the Toastmasters program. And we did have a Toastmasters program within the corporate environments that I was involved in. Some of the partnership, now this is important even if you're currently a member of a corporate club and you're looking, ask yourself if you have a partnership that's working, because it can certainly help to boost the strength of your club. So first of all, I really look at this is that the employer is buying our service, our program, to bring in to their organization to then provide learning to their employees. So if you're already a Toastmaster member in a corporate club, ask yourself how involved your corporation is, or your government agency is, in maintaining that contract between Toastmasters International, or have they relegated it all to you? There's also a responsibility when the employer brings it in, I feel, to look at what's the responsibility for the employee that goes to training back to the employer. If the employer is giving you either money or time to attend the program, there is in all likeliness anticipated some accountability, whether you have standards to meet, you have a percentage of attendance to meet, so that you're reporting back and creating that accountability, which is really important. I think it's exciting when we work in partnership that the corporation's really looking at providing a place for you to meet, and meeting times. Ideally, that's during the workday, because it's seen as this is an education program for our employees, and we don't send our employees for training after hours. We actually train them during work hours as part of their job. So something for you to think about. I love to see accountability also from the club or the Toastmasters program report back to the organization in terms of who's attending, what's the attendance rate from the participants, because they're either getting time or money to attend, and what is their level of development? How many levels have you accomplished? How many projects have you completed in a 6-month period of time? That provides a report back to your employer, but it also holds you accountable to work the program. And Toastmasters wants to know that you're working the program, because they're being looked at to see if they're delivering any results. So it works all ways, because as a participant in the Toastmasters program, you're reporting out back to your employer that, hey, I'm working the program and here's the results. And because the results are often performance-based, or the way we perform our duties, and observable behavior change, we want to give them notice that we're working the program. It's also interesting to talk about who's going to pay the tuition and who's going to give the time. So that's part of that partnership. And if your employer currently doesn't do that, perhaps you could go back to the drawing board and have a conversation because we can create value by talking about the transferable skills and the benefits for the employer, which I'll cover later. Also look at roles and responsibilities between what Toastmasters International will provide to that club or your program, as well as what will the corporation provide. And I've talked a bit about the corporation. I also really highly support a learning agreement between the employer and the employee. And these are often in place already, but why not request that your Toastmasters experience or journey be documented in that learning agreement also? So that's part of that, a way to have accountability. So those are some of the things in terms of partnership. When we look at support and structure, one of the greatest challenges in the corporate world for me was, as I explained this to my CEO and how it was going to be, she's saying to me, "What do you mean there's no instructor?" And that was shocking to her, because how can you learn if there's not an authority standing at the front of the room? And I go, whoa, just wait a minute. This is peer learning. We do it through mentoring. There's going to be people that come into the program. If you're new or you want support for your existing club, there's people that are going to come in with more knowledge, and we're going to mentor and support. So there's that. There's also people that are available to give that introductory foundational information so that the club gets up and running, and that you can build that knowledge internally so that you become self-sustaining. But there's an ongoing support system through leaders in other leadership roles, like an area and a division director, that may visit your club and actually support you in being successful, and that's part of their mandate. So there's structure in the Toastmasters program, all of us learning, all of us students of the program, to support that experiential learning. And that's a very unique part of the Toastmasters program, that we are experiential. And so we learn by doing. While there's going to be sponsors and mentors come in at the beginning of the program to support us gaining that, eventually we'll gain our own independence, and you have some autonomy in your club. So you want to look at building that club really strongly. So follow the program that's recommended, having presentations out of the Pathways program, which is our education program, having oral evaluations so we learn how to evaluate. And I'll talk more about those transferable skills later. But really looking at that experiential setup. What that also happens is that in that environment, it's that there is no pass or fail. And that's important to learn, because I have questions that often come from supervisors saying, Jan's been in Toastmasters for 2 years. When is she going to graduate? And I go, when you quit supporting her, or when she feels she's learned enough, or she's satisfied. But I've been here for 4 decades and I'm caught on the cycle and I'm staying here. So I always find more things to learn. So we want to be really clear up front that this is experiential learning. There's no pass or fail, that there's no instructors, but there's mentors and support that come in to support that process. And that we give and we learn. So it's that I'm both a student, but I'm also then become a mentor and somebody that shares my knowledge. Some other things to think about in terms of setting it up, and that there to be a good structure around it, is that I love if the club reports out to the corporation. It's part of the structure of them knowing that you exist and who's in the club, taking attendance, all of those things that make sense in other programs that we run in the workplace. And so to create some stability to it. I love when we can get access to the intranet and or the training calendar in corporations where Toastmasters program becomes part of the training programs provided if you have that kind of structure. And Toastmasters is really a plug and play program when you decide to bring it into your workplace. You don't have to worry about hiring instructors. You don't have to worry about who's going to build the evaluation process for the program, who's going to build the actual curriculum for it. It's all done. When you buy seats in the Toastmasters program, your employees are provided with the curriculum, and in that comes their projects. Their recognition comes from the international organization. Our projects are all spelt out with tutorials and information attached to it, and the evaluation criteria is attached to it. So the people that are evaluating also have that provided. And the way the structure is created, learning objectives are attached to that, and it's just one neat package. So it's fairly labor light for the employer, just to find a way to enroll your people. In terms of who's the target audience, I love to say anybody. I found it super effective depending on the kind of corporation you're in or the kind of government agency you're in. I find that high level administrative people that are wanting to move into supervision roles are very prime for Toastmasters programs. I find mid-level managers who seem to plateau out are great candidates for the Toastmasters program. And anybody else that you think needs communication skills and or leadership skills. Now, communication skills, let's be clear, in Toastmasters, that doesn't mean talking. Most of you think right away, oh, Toastmasters is about talking. Let me share a secret with you. We listen about 10 times more than we talk. And that's a very, very low estimate. The moment we attend, we start listening. The moment we walk into the room, we're listening. We listen to speakers, and then we provide feedback to those evaluators or to those speakers. So we learn to listen first and foremost. So if you've got any employees that you think don't listen or don't understand you, they might be good candidates for the Toastmasters program. Or maybe you've got somebody at home that you think would be a good candidate for the Toastmasters program. I know my family would vote for that. So listening first, then thinking skills are something that we do. So we analyze because we hear, and then we have analysis before we can then provide feedback. And through that process of communication, we build confidence and self-esteem, and that expands into every part of our lives. And we'll talk more about how that shows up in the workplace. But looking at that transferability. So listening, thinking, speaking, and then that all translates into confidence, self-esteem, and then that along with expertise in our field at work, then we find that people show up as leaders. And so it's all in that program through experiential learning. So a quick look at transferable skills in terms of what your employees or you as a member of Toastmasters are learning or could expect to learn. The first thing that comes to mind for me is that critical listening and critical thinking skills. Because we're always listening and providing feedback and forming our own opinions, that is a skill we work on in every meeting that we're in. We have an opportunity to listen to speakers, listen to the chair of the meeting, listen to evaluators, and we learn by listening. And then we also can provide our own feedback, which causes us to be required to actually think, to analyze 2 criteria. Now, this sounds like what I do at work. We evaluate a program according to criteria. We evaluate behavior according to certain standards. That's what we do in Toastmasters, and we teach our people how to do that. So critical listening and thinking. Teamwork is a huge part of what we learn in Toastmasters because, as I said, no instructors, we learn to work together. We have an elected executive that runs, so a small board that has some say in how the executive runs or how the club runs, sets the strategic direction for that club for the year. So it has practice in doing that. And then the club as a whole works as a team to meet the criteria. So you have to work out your differences. You get to work with different people, different viewpoints, but still work as a team. Delegating, all those things that come into good teamwork, respect, integrity, providing service to one another, working as a team, and learning leadership. Feedback skills. Well, we all use those both at home, in our community, and in Toastmasters. We learn how to do that better. And we have certain models that we use, but people go out from there and develop their own styles. But feedback skills translates directly to the workplace and also gives us confidence to be able to state our opinion, not just to agree with everybody, but to say, well, I hear what you're saying, but I'd like to, and I have something else to add. And that builds confidence and self-esteem that then has our people showing up differently. Meeting management, because our structure is in a format of a meeting, we learn in that meeting format because we're actually teaching meeting management. Each one of our roles in that learning session is assigned. It has a mandate, what they're delivering, and a time limit. We teach time management because you might have 1 minute to do something. You might have 5 minutes or 7 minutes to perform a presentation, and then maybe 3 minutes or 2 minutes to provide feedback. So everything is timed. Everything is meeting objectives of the learning program. Interpersonal communication is, I think, a byproduct of the Toastmasters program. But because we work in a team, we're always working and connecting with one another and building relationships and building trust, which, boy, would that ever be nice to have in every workplace that we had instead of, and I always think of the benefit of interpersonal. I remember my experience was that there was this person in finance that was always difficult for me because I'm not detail oriented. And I'm going, oh, that person in finance is such a jerk, such a detailed, picky person. Ended up when they joined Toastmasters, they were quite a fascinating person. And it changed my relationship because suddenly in the workplace, I'm going, you know what, that person really has a job to do. And because I knew the person then, rather than just the role or how they interacted with me, it changed my reaction and my relationship with them. And of course, the tone in the workplace. Setting and managing goals is another criteria that we cover in the program because we want you to move along in the program, and our program is designed in levels and we work through the levels. There's 5 steps in each level so we can measure it. There's recognition attached to those levels. And as we work and ask you to set goals and work the program, and we support you. So presentation skills, of course, yes, we do talk in Toastmasters some, but presentation skills, I think of it as informal presentation, first of all, because we want those for the workplace, that more informal. And sometimes that's when we're giving evaluation. We're not super prepared, but we might have an outline. We're presenting our ideas. We have impromptu, which is off the cuff. That stands us in good stead. We practice that, and it's called table topics in Toastmasters. So sticking with the question, answering the question. This also directly relates to promoting your employees internally. If your employees need to interview and be promoted internally, you want them in Toastmasters so that they show up at their very best in those interview meetings. I sat in many interviews and watched people that I knew could do the job, but they were unable to present themselves capable and competent in those meetings. And I suggested to them at the end of the interview that they join Toastmasters so they could talk about their achievements, their qualities, their skills that they were bringing to the workplace. So there's no room for modesty there. You've got to present yourself well. And the other one is more formal presentations, of course. And we learn how to put together a presentation, how to write. And I know for me, my writing was hugely impacted by my speaking, because as I wrote speeches, I learned to take out those superfluous words. I learned to get to the point faster because I only had 7 minutes. And I learned to be much tighter in my thinking and my writing as a result. And that was appreciated in my workplace. Accountability is also a transferable skill that we learn because we are accountable, because we work as a team, and we rely on one another to show up when we make a commitment and to fulfill our part of the program and to support the other members. And so accountability, as well as when we get a mentor assigned to us, the mentor is going to check in to make sure we're going to be there. And that's great accountability. And I love that. It teaches us, again, a very valuable transferable skill to go through. And finally, I want to just say management's training as well as leadership training. Management, we really learn to manage and deal with systems and deliverables, all of those processes in Toastmasters, because there's a fair number of them when you're tracking education and achievements and membership and what everybody's doing and attendance and reporting out to the corporation. There's a lot of management going on, but we also learn leadership, which is about building that culture, which is about our own self-development, our relationship with the people around us and caring, and our values that we bring. And Toastmasters as an organization, our core values are integrity, respect, service, and excellence. And I think that that's a grand base to have in any corporation. If my employees all functioned from those 4 core values in the work that they were doing, what a difference it would make. So those are some of the transferable skills that your employees or you as a member of Toastmasters would anticipate building. And there may be more, and I'm interested in hearing if you come up with some more. Just to cover briefly what your organization might get from Toastmasters. Well, other than an employee that has all those skills at some level of development and ongoing development and getting feedback on a weekly basis of how they could be better in those fields, we would look at, depending on what your environment is like. I found in the last corporation that I worked in that we had people from Toastmasters suddenly changing our culture. And they did it from a grassroots level because some of them were the admin staff of our culture, of our employer. And what they did was decide that they would revamp the agendas for all our meetings internally because they were in charge. And that was their mandate, to put the agendas together and gather the material for each of the agendas, just like we do in Toastmasters. And they started assigning timing. Oh, what a concept. What a disruptive concept it was for a couple of months until everybody started loving it. Because when Pat got 8 minutes, because I asked for 8 minutes, or I said, oh, I need 10 minutes. So they would give me 10 minutes. When I went 11 minutes, they asked me to stop because now I was into somebody else's time and I was being disrespectful. So they asked me to stop and that they would book me the remainder of my time for the next meeting. So now it made everybody conscious that you had to figure out how much time you needed. You couldn't just wing it. So it forced preparation. But it also created an environment where we had a new mandate come down from the CEO that said all our meetings will be 45 minutes. And that will now allow us to not run from meeting to meeting, because we were in the physical environment at that time and we were running from room to room to make our meetings. We were always running from one late and arriving late at the next. She said, you have 15 minutes between each meeting if you're going from meeting to meeting. And we ran the agendas with time. We find that people are better representatives of our organization because they have better communication skills. They listen to what our customers are asking for and they answer the question. I don't know about you, but I talked to a representative this week from a international organization that I was dealing with, and the person never heard me. I repeated my request 3 times and I did not get an answer. And I finally said, thank you very much. And I hung up. The person didn't know how to listen. They didn't hear what I was asking. They kept answering some other question that they thought I was asking. Maybe that was the frequently asked question for them, but that's not the question I was asking. So I was very dissatisfied. I actually went online and wrote a letter in to ask my question after I bothered to phone. So you want your people to be able to listen and hear and serve and be a good representative of your organization. Imagine if all your teams got along or found a way to get along and they listened to one another and worked as a team. And those people that are lone wolves, what if they actually learned how to delegate and support their teams? They can learn that in Toastmasters. They can learn that other places, but they get to practice it in Toastmasters because we don't just give the knowledge in Toastmasters, we also give the experience, the hands-on experience that makes the difference of not just having the knowledge that, oh, I've got to delegate, I have to figure out if this person is capable and if they have time and if I trust them and if they've got a good record and on and on and on. But you get to practice it in Toastmasters. So not just the head knowledge, but the hands-on experience. And that's priceless when you go to write your resume. I like the fact that as an employer, you can anticipate that you're going to see some management and you're going to see some leaders come out of your Toastmasters program because your people are going to have more confidence and self-esteem. They're going to raise their hands more often and say, I have something to add. I've got something of value to say. Have we thought of this? Or when you call on them, rather than them sitting there embarrassed, they're going to be able to speak up and present from their program the information that you want to hear. They're going to be able to lead meetings. And I found in our corporation that our Toastmaster members were the ones that were being asked to MC our in-house events, that they were the ones that were asked to put programs together, that they were representing our organization, that they were asked first to go out and present and represent our organizations at conferences in our field of expertise because they could and that they were comfortable doing it. Often also to provide that feedback, which I mentioned as a transferable skill, that you have people that are capable of working with people. And we hear often internally that, oh, I don't want to take a promotion because I don't want to work with people. What if your employees were saying, wow, I'd be a good supervisor because I know how to give feedback. I can give tough feedback in a gentle way, in a supportive way, because I learned it in Toastmasters. And if you're in sales, if any of you are representing sales inside or outside, just imagine if you've got somebody that can talk benefits, can answer questions and listen to your potential clients and actually provide service to them. So that's, from my perspective, just a very quick overview, just a thumbnail touch on each of those topics to give you a sense of the value of the Toastmasters program and the support that's available, how it might work for you, and that the benefits that your employees would gain from the program. So I'm going to turn it back to our host today and ask that if you've got questions to bring them forward after when we have a Q&A period. And thank you for your time and being here today. Over to you, Dr. Susan.
Thank you so much. Emojis, packed of information, wealth of knowledge, and helping us to understand the Toastmasters program, especially in the corporate environment. Of course, Pat has offered to be of connection in our Q&A today, but also offered to be connected after. So I will share her information. I want to now introduce one of our current Toastmasters members in District 47. She's a part of one of our corporate clubs. She's part of MedPro Healthcare Staffing Toastmasters Club, and she's going to share a little bit about her experience in the Toastmasters and her Toastmasters experience. Please help me welcome Toastmaster Hannah Giraldo.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Susan. Thank you, first of all, for the invitation to give in this testimonial. And I just want to, before I introduce myself, I just want to say, Pat, that was incredible. Thank you so much for all the knowledge. It resonates with my journey currently with Toastmasters and what we're experiencing here at MedPro Healthcare Staffing. So I will say that everything that you touched on, everything that you said is exactly what we're experiencing. So from the perspective of learning and development and bringing that to a corporation, you hit that nail right on the head. I will add, so I am the director of talent here at MedPro Healthcare Staffing. What I do is I oversee our talent acquisition and our learning and development for the corporate office. We have about 350 employees, and I used to be a Toastmaster at a previous company before I joined MedPro Healthcare Staffing. And I knew coming into MedPro that I wanted to at some point bring forward Toastmasters, bring it back into my life. And I proposed it to our executive team a year ago. And our club, it's been up and running now for 9 months. So I am the club president, and we have 31 active members right now for employees, and we have about 40 in line to want to join. So it's been phenomenal. I will say everything that Pat mentioned, it's exactly what we're experiencing. We are seeing retention because of it. I have spoken to 3 members who were already thinking of joining a different corporation, and because of Toastmasters, they decided to stay with us. So I think that that is a huge success story. Is we're experiencing retention. We have also gained a lot of confidence as employees. And one of my favorite parts that I'm seeing day to day is we're breaking down the silos. Our 31 members are all from multiple and different departments. We have members from our HR team, members from our sales team, from our credentialing team, account management. We have members on all different levels, associate, team lead, manager, and director. But when we're in Toastmasters, we are fellow Toastmasters. We're not Hannah from talent or Alex from marketing. We are all in it together. And that's been a phenomenal experience because it has built camaraderie. It has built trust between departments. It has built strong communication from one team to the next. And not a day goes by without members coming into my office and telling them how much of a difference this has made in their journey as an employee and in their personal careers as well. So it is an excellent professional development exercise for our employees. It's an excellent personal journey as well. And we experience so much growth. One of the best things, I think, when you mentioned it earlier, I was like, oh, yes, that's so true, Pat. Our executives ask me the same thing. Well, who's the teacher and who's leading these workshops? And I'm like, no, I'm not. There's no teacher. This is social learning. We are learning from each other. We're all becoming mentors in its own way. And we have grown together. Yes, while I might be a director and while we have someone in a lower level position, we are at the same time going through this journey together. And it has been a wonderful experience. The support that we have 2 amazing mentors, Beverly Legister and Alex McRae. They have come to every single one of our meetings since we started. And their support is through the roof. They're always here for us. They always give us feedback after every meeting. So I will say having a program that brings so many resources, so much backup, so much mentorship. It's incredibly beneficial for any company that is thinking about doing it.
Amazing. Let's throw some hearts up. Toastmaster Hannah Giraldo, you expressed yourself beautifully, and I'm just super excited. I saw Beverly Legister. She's actually on the call. She's throwing up
Oh, she
hearts.
is?
Super
Yes, yes.
excited.
Hi, Beverly.
So it's always beautiful. I want to thank you again and invite you. We're gonna open this up now to some Q&A. So Hannah, if some have questions for you and distinguished Toastmaster Pat, we will open it up. Any questions, you can either type them in the chat and I will read them, and or you can raise your hand up, unmute, and ask your question. It's always that shy moment, or that you're formulating your questions. And thank you, distinguished Toastmaster Geraldine.
While others are waiting to ask their question or put it in the chat. Quickly, Pat, I wanted to address something that you mentioned. You mentioned that you have worked with both corporate clubs and you've also worked with governmental entities. Are there any things that we should consider when we're reaching out to try to establish the clubs in a government entity as opposed to a corporation?
Thank you for that question. I didn't find a great difference because I was on the inside of both of them, but I would say that my experience is that sometimes in government, it's hard to find the decision maker. It's more clear cut when you're into a corporation. You can usually find the learning and development department pretty straightforward, or who the CEO or president is. But government agencies can be a bit of a maze. So ideally, if you can find somebody on the inside, so just think if we could find a Hannah and in her position every time we went looking, and how easy that would be. But I find that it's the maze of government to find who actually holds the decision and the budget, that you can actually have a conversation with them, and then to get into their office. So that's the biggest challenge from my perspective. After that, it's not different for me. I find the greatest challenge is getting the employer when we ask them for time or money. Money is easier than time, but I always ask for an hour of time every week for the learning. And I ask it during the work hours because I think this is relevant to the workplace and the employees' development. So I basically ask for an hour on Tuesday afternoons from 2 to 3, and a meeting room for it to be held in. And I was taught to ask for what you want, take what you get, and deal with the difference. So always ask for what you want first, and then go from there. So
thank you.
Thanks for the question.
And we did get a question in the chat. Alice says she's brand new to Toastmaster. Any advice?
Hannah, do you want to go first?
Hannah?
Sure. Embrace the nerves, embrace the journey. And if you are you a corporate, Alice, are you a corporate member or a public club member? Yes, corporate. Excellent. I think that I will say use this as an opportunity to advocate with your manager. So if your manager is not part of Toastmasters, use this as an opportunity to advocate for your skills. And if you have reviews, if you have quarterly reviews, yearly reviews, use what you have learned in Toastmasters to highlight your new skills and to highlight what that brings to your role and to your professional development.
And my advice would be to stay super curious, because Toastmasters is a humongous organization. We're in over 150 countries of the world. We have international opportunities of leadership for anybody in any club if you're willing to go. So don't get stuck in your club, but start and be curious of what other leadership opportunities are there. And most of those leadership opportunities are solely based in, or hugely based in, communication skills. So it's just, when you get comfortable, look around to find a way to become uncomfortable again. Do not get comfortable in your club. Keep challenging yourself. So that's my advice to a new Toastmaster. I'm still uncomfortable and I've been here 4 decades. So. Over to you, Dr. Susan.
Thank you. Great advice. And we do have a hand up from Dana. Please, your question.
Hi, it's actually not a question. I'm in the same club as Alice, and just like Hannah said, we actually have a lot of support. It does stem from our learning and development department. So it's always part of the reviews, and I find every year at this time, because I'm the VP of membership, which I accepted the role in July, I think, we were able to, we see a lot of people now as reviews are being done, you know, with interest in the club. Alice actually did just join, and we lost our sergeant at arms, and she did jump right into that role. So it's commendable to her. She jumped into a role before I was even done signing her up, which was great. So it is a lot of support within Bank United for this, and we try to grow the club. We actually got 7 or 8 new members in the last few months, so it's been exciting. So Alice does have a lot of opportunity here, and we do get a lot of support internally from the bank as a corporate club.
Fantastic. I will say that my experience is that when you get good support in-house, that you'll keep a strong club, because people want to be involved in something that's getting noticed in the corporate world. I mean, people are not foolish and stupid. They see that, well, this is something that can highlight my skills and my potential in the organization. So it really supports both our growth, but also from the corporate side, the retention of employees, as Hannah referenced. You know, it's like a benefit. I helped charter a corporate program, a long time ago, probably 3 decades ago. But they put it, the HR department put it as one of their employee benefits on their new hire sheets, that you have a right to belong to the Toastmasters program. We hold it in-house. They held it in-house during work hours. And they, like Hannah's club, had people of all levels. You parked your role, you parked your title outside of the meeting room, and you walked in there as a student. And it was all game on. So it was a great environment. Yeah. There was a question in the chat about, somebody asked, is Pathways a primary learning program? Pathways is what we call our learning curriculum. So the curriculum that we have with all our levels, 5 levels of learning in, and then 5 steps within those program levels is called Pathways, but that is our curriculum name. Yeah.
Thank you for answering that question. And then there was a comment as well in the chat from the city of Sunrise, which has their own Toastmaster club, or Rising Stars. They are a corporate club, and they're showing great improvement from the most shyest people. And we just made it to our 1st year anniversary, and we're working on improving the environment, and we're considering contests, maybe. So they seem excited. Love that.
One of the greatest challenges that I've found over the years in working with corporates is that the clubs start to wane because of isolation, because they're just seen as an entity unto themselves, and the members in it go to it during work hours, and then they see it as a work responsibility. And then because there's a lack of scope to it, and they don't get to embrace all of the Toastmasters program, I just, as a word of caution, really plant the seeds and consider, because I hear that there's a lot of young clubs here, get a group together and go to area contests or go to division events or go to the district conference and get outside of your club environment, because you bring back new ideas, you bring back enthusiasm, you meet people from all different levels of experience in Toastmasters. You see things differently and experience the whole of the Toastmasters program, not just because the club is the first level and that's where we practice and that's our safe place. But from there, we venture out into bigger ponds, and it's like being a goldfish. We grow bigger because we go into bigger areas. And so I just really encourage those members in new clubs to venture out beyond your club and not get too isolated. So thanks.
Thank you, distinguished Toastmaster Pat Johnson. Any other questions? We have about 5 more minutes where you can ask any questions. You can include them in the chat, raise your hand, and we'll call on you. And as you're thinking of those questions, I want to just take this opportunity then to thank our dignitaries in the room. We had our district director, Price Polony, supporting us, our program quality director, Anson Munnings. I am Club Growth Director, Susan Vanetta, and we are excited that you made time to be here today, either live or joining us later in a recording and getting the valuable information shared by distinguished Toastmaster Pat Johnson and our testimonial by Toastmaster Hannah. Super powerful words, super powerful inspiration. I know that if you don't already have a Toastmasters club in your company, you're going to be reaching out to us to find out how to have your very own corporate club in our district. So I'm super excited. We did get a couple questions here. I am going to share. So yes, so the book is available. So I'm going to share the details. So the book is available at Toastmasters International Stores. It's item B79. Also, Pat has graciously offered for me to share her email. If you have more questions on just how to have your own sustainable and thriving corporate club, she's available to answer. She just asked that you please write in the subject line District 47 Corporate Symposium, so she has reference to our district. I also now see Christopher, please unmute, share.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. So just to piggyback off of what Pat just mentioned about going out and venturing into contests, I actually was at Price's club a few months ago. Marika had brought me in to be a test speaker for their contest. And I just thought the feedback that I got from all the evaluators was very, very informative to where it helped me grow more. And then when I went back to my club, I was excited to tell them about, let's start, doing contests. And so, of course, they were all very nervous about it, but definitely a great experience. Definitely good to venture out.
Thank you, Christopher, for sharing.
You're welcome.
We also had a question come through in the chat asking, Pat, in your experience, have you seen how venturing out of the comfort zone in corporate clubs could be beneficial to a corporation regarding youth leadership programs?
Wow, this is a tough question. Running a youth leadership program for a group below age 18 is really, for me, a community activity. And so you really need to look at what kind of stressors that'll take on or put on your corporate Toastmasters program. It is like running a school. You do have leaders in it, and you do a lot of preparation, and you're working with under 18. So it's in most cases not going to be your employees. So you're out in the community. But transferable skills go everywhere. If that's your passion to work with youth and you're a Toastmaster in the corporate world, I say get everybody out of your way and away you go, because youth will benefit from this. There's a lot of support from World Headquarters, from Toastmasters to put on youth leadership programs, and it's a great learning. If you're looking for a challenge, you'll be challenged. And there's a lot of flexibility in doing it also. So, and as well as youth leadership programs, there's also, if over time you want to ever entertain doing a speechcraft in another corporation, or if you have branches in your organization where you want to do a speechcraft, which would be 6 or 8 weeks long, and it's a program for people to come and get a quick fix of what Toastmasters might be like for the longer commitment. So again, those 2 programs are available if you want to take that on. So thanks for being ambitious.
Thank you, distinguished Toastmaster Pat, and thank you, Toastmaster Gary, for that question. I also saw one of my fellow CGDs, Amric, you unmuted. Do you have a question or comment? I love the support. Thank you.
Well, I'm thankful for inviting me here today. An awesome presentation, Pat. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for supporting. Any other questions? And if you don't think of them right now, like I said, we are available to support you along this journey. You've heard it many times. Toastmasters is about mentoring and supporting each other. Therefore, if you think of something, you can reach out to Pat. You can also reach out to me. If you registered in advance for this meeting, that means I have your contact information, and you will receive a follow-up email, not only with the recording, but of course, all the information on how to contact us and feel that support from District 47. I want to just thank everyone for taking the time to be with each other here today, because as you see, we've all been impacted by this Toastmasters program, and we want to share it with others, and we want to continue to grow, and we want to continue to support each other. So I want to thank each and every one of you, the dignitaries in the room, the distinguished Toastmasters, the Toastmasters, and of course, our future Toastmasters out there. And if you want to stay behind, you can ask any questions. I'll be here, but I just want to thank you for your time again and wish you well. Thank you, Pat.
Thank you for inviting me to be part of it. And good luck to all the clubs.
Some great job.
Thank you. Great job. This was amazing. I took 3 pages of notes, and I've spoken to you several times. Every time, something else to unpack. I just appreciate it so much.
Thank you, Hannah. That was an awesome testimonial. That was fantastic.
Thank you so much,
Yes.
Pat.
Yeah.
She definitely was very impactful. Thank you, Toastmaster Hannah. And I'll share the
Thank you.
recording with you as well. You get to share with others.
Definitely. Thank you, everyone.
I think
Bye.
Everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.